It's on. All right, I will call the meeting to order. Please silence your cell phones if you have not already done so. And let me make sure. Yep. Okay. And if we can stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Lisa, will you call the roll?
Sure. Darcy Kaplan. Angela Brown.
Here.
Jenny Slopes. Kara Shields. Here. Jasper DeChristopher. Keith Goshen. Ray Armstrong.
Here.
You have 3 of us tonight. Okay. Lisa, can you verify that the meeting was advertised?
Oh, yeah, I think we just tabled it from.
Yeah, we tabled it.
Yeah, from the last. And it was also advertised as a regular meeting in December of 2024 in the Delaware Gazette.
Perfect. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read the adopted policy. The adopted policy of Highland Zoning Commission is that each applicant or agenda item will be given 10 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson to make a formal presentation. The chair will allow for questions from the commission members in order to provide a timely and orderly discussion of business for consideration. Finally, the audience will then be given up to 3 minutes or at the discretion of the chairperson for each speaker to respond. The chairperson may limit repetitive debate, and all comments from the audience must be addressed to the chairperson. So this is to continue from November 12th, and it was BZC 24-007, and it was regarding Sandra Farber's estate at 475 North 3 BZC Road in Sunbury. The applicant was requesting approval of preliminary and final development plan to rezone parcel 4181100103000 and 4181001031000, which is approximately 37.6 acres for 111 detached homes, part of the TPUD, and it should be known as the Bluffs at Allen Creek. Okay.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Aaron Underhill. I'm an attorney with Underhill and Hodge at 8000 Walton Parkway in New Albany. Josh Barkin with MI Homes is here with me today, and we'll be filling in some blanks to the extent that I don't. We are here this evening really to just get some feedback to a revised plan. We are not asking for a vote tonight. With the process the township now has in place with combining preliminary and final development plans, we wanted to make sure we came back to you first before we went to that time and effort and see if we made some progress here. I did want to go back and just revisit the plan and what we've done since the last meeting. If you'll recall, one of the 4 divergences we had at the previous plan was related to being at just over 4 units an acre. We have dropped 5 units, so we're down from 111 to 106 with this plan. We have also, there's a big topic of building separation. We've increased that from 12 feet to 15 feet minimum building separation. And then also in the materials we gave you with Levi's help, we were able to get confirmation from the fire department that even at the 12-foot separation, there were no concerns from a fire code perspective. I think one of the things that is sort of lost in our presentation previously when we got into it as the meeting went on is the existence of this BCO, or the business, the Berlin Commercial Overlay District. And, right now, that would apply to the property as of right if we go through the preliminary development plan process and the standards. And so just a reminder, That allows commercial uses like retail, restaurant, hotels, medical offices, a laundry list. There's also multifamily permitted within that district. That's the only residential that's permitted if we were to use it, and that would be, there's a recommendation in the overlay district map that it's 4 units an acre, a little bit of the site, and 10 units an acre for the large majority of it. We felt when there one route to go, I think we can all agree that generally you like the product that we're presenting. I think there's some nuances to the underlying code and what we've used the TPUD versus the BCO for the reason that it was most analogous to the type of product we're bringing to the table here. And frankly, if we were in the BCO, we'd be asking for a laundry list of divergences, and I know divergences are kind of a bad word in townships. Inevitably, you're going to have some, but one of the reasons we picked the TPUD was this fit more neatly into those regulations. And so right now, as we stand, we're at 3 divergences, which are the same ones presented previously, obviously with the increase in building separation as opposed to the 25-foot required by the underlying TPUD. We're now at 15 feet. But we believe that the use of the district is more, picking which district is more form over substance. It's a lot cleaner to use the TPUD. We meet the large majority of those standards, and it wasn't because any precedent was set, but merely because the regulations really more apply apples to apples to our plan than with the BCO. So, I think the land buyers typically like to maximize their potential economic output on the site, right? If you're a development company, you try to typically maximize what you can get in terms of building on the property. And so the great thing about MI Homes, I think the product that we're bringing here is very unique to the area, and it's kind of a missing middle, as we said in our statement, in terms of size and sizes of homes and values. And I think it's really unique. I think if they are not a multifamily developer, but we did do a back of the napkin sort of plan with EMH&T, our land planner and civil engineer, and the site without any engineering being taken into account would have yielded about 208 multifamily units by right under that BCO. So we really think that this comes down to a policy question of is this product preferred over what might be in the other circumstances in terms of commercial uses that could be heavier on traffic, certainly multifamily uses that would have more of an impact. So, at 4 units an acre with this product type that really fits a niche in the community, is that better than what could be under, and that's not to say we're going to do it, but someone else may step in and do and try to maximize the value of the asset. If we would have used the overlay district, it would have been a totally different variance in terms of the side yard or the separation. We would be asking to increase from 0 to 15 feet rather than reducing from 25 to 15 feet. So as you look at this from another perspective, not whether or not we're meeting the TPUD requirement, but we're well exceeding the BCO requirement that would otherwise apply, and which would require us, if we were going to do residential, to do a minimum of 4 units per building. So obviously shared walls and no setbacks between individual units. There would be setbacks between buildings, obviously. And then I guess looking at the setback in the context of the product type, I mean, this is a project that's going to be a condo. It will have universal maintenance. You typically see that sort of setup in a community with smaller units and smaller lot sizes. The 25-foot building separation is more akin to a more suburban type neighborhood. You typically don't see those sorts of neighborhoods with the universal lawn maintenance, for instance. So with that, is there anything you'd like to add, Josh?
That's a good start. Look forward to the discussion.
So we look forward to the discussion. We think that, this product is unique enough that it doesn't fit neatly inside any of the boxes that are your districts, but we do think the most closely sized box is the TPUD, and that's why we chose it. So happy to answer questions.
I'll do a little bit there. I I guess that cleared up, one of the things is you're not asking for a vote tonight because the advertised thing says you are. The book says you're not. So
Okay,
we are not voting.
We're not.
correct, correct.
Okay. All right. Good start there. Okay. Let's see. Got a question there, for example, on page 6. I don't know, it's just, you didn't quite get it. Under A, it says, the density is, no divergence is requested. The last statement says that this is believes this divergence is reasonable. Did that just not make an edit?
Yeah, I just didn't make an error. Good
Okay.
catch.
All right. I wanted to ask about the vinyl and stuff. What are we doing as far as, I mean, I've seen a lot of the product with the heavier stuff. And what I'm wondering is, are we talking about vinyl on all sides, or are you going to have any difference in the front? Because I think you're going to run into problems there.
So,
Last applicant did.
so what we, would be proposing would be the same that we're doing at Berlin Farm and what we've done at the Pines. Just drove through both on my way here tonight, which look great. Those are in Berlin Township. Plenty of others in the general area would be our preference. The reason we've gone away from the natural fronts and the vinyl sides is that it has two different fade rates, that the hardy fronts and the vinyl sides fade differently, and also the profile's different. And you can tell. Also, the last thing is, especially in a condo type setting where you're looking for low maintenance and the condo will be taking care of that stuff and people want to be able to lock and leave, not worry about it, is that hardy plank is not self-maintained. You have to clean it, you have to take care of it. So our preference would be, the request would be to do exactly what we're doing at Berlin Farm at the Pines. It looks really good. There are some discussions on the tornadoes. It didn't come off the MI houses, by the way. So, if we watched it, but we'd certainly not the higher.
Couple did.
The pictures I got weren't ours.
I gave you the address even.
Okay. But it was, I mean, that was such a, like,
But
that as the example is almost like kind of fun to talk about because like it took a literal tornado. I mean,
if you're watching, I'm sorry.
yeah, I know, but if a literal tornado is going to hit the house, I mean, I can't. We don't make any guarantees on what happens in that scenario. But that would be the request. I mean, we're building it actively in the township. We do think it's of high quality. We think it goes with the condominium regime and the low maintenance. But we also will have brick and stone on the fronts of these houses with a water table type element that I think makes it pop a little bit, and the stuff looks really good.
Yeah, I think we're mostly looking for something to make it stand out, not just
If
vinyl condo.
Of course,
That's what, I don't know, I can't speak for everybody. I look for some divergence in there that way.
Okay, if we had, I don't have all the elevations tonight,
Well,
but
that's what I was gonna say, so I think it said in there something about having the elevations and.
they were in the other one and they didn't get into this. I can bring some for the next meeting. But if we did something like the water table element, which is we add brick or stone on the front of everyone, which gives it a little pop. Would something like that be helpful? I mean, if we do that if all of our, so we offer usually 4 different house plans that have 4 elevations. It's actually 5 house plans that have 4 elevations each. So there's 20 different options, and then we have our own diversity matrix, how they go in. Most of them have a water, probably 65 or 70% of them have some type of stone water table on it or a brick water table. We could talk about how I'll really drill down on what I believe the percentage to be, that it's not just vinyl.
I think that would help sell it.
Think,
That
certain
goes a long
percentage of-
way. And I had looked at these.
a certain percentage.
Okay.
I'm not really concerned about the one with the roof pitch, you know, that's, as you say, that's not the main roof and stuff.
Yeah.
So emphasizing that is a good thing to not get stuck with. Are you still gonna have some, kickback on the, separation? You probably are going to get some, and of course, here's why. Even though I agree with the stuff that you're saying, that's still what's within the code. It's something that's gonna have to be looked at in light of some of the other changes, and probably needs to be addressed, but you're gonna be filing it while it's still in the code. So expect that you may or may not have to run into some problems with that. And,
So there's an effort underway to update your code?
it hasn't been at this point. You're the one that's really nailed it home on that.
There's an effort to update which code.
The overall zoning resolution?
Is that-
The separation between the buildings.
Oh, okay,
Now, what I'm saying is you're still gonna get some blowback on that. I understand your reasoning, and it's something we need to look at because of the fact of what's in the BCO and so on. Because right now you're setting an FR1, which obviously has something that's way different than what you have.
yeah, of course. So,
Had a couple other concerns. I'm just saying, be aware that you're gonna get some on that, so have plan B in your pocket.
on that note, I mean, we did try, I mean, we didn't want to just come back tonight and hammer the same argument. So we did go from 12 to 15, which I know on one hand might feel minimal, but I mean, you lose 5 units, you get the sense of what happens to the project if you go incrementally more. And that's really where this discussion of the BCO goes. I mean, we did do a site plan. I mean, it's 208 units.
Oh, yeah.
Fits in
But we've
perfectly.
got some of that stuff going on now, so.
And that, it came up last time, but that was part of it. The reason at Regional Planning Commission why they initially said no was because it was not attached product. And I had to talk, Aaron and I had to talk them off before, and then Aaron was at the meeting. I'd never been in a situation where I was talking off a zoning authority from telling me that it wasn't dense enough. And then I was like, I don't know how this is gonna go. I really believe that for this particular piece of property in the township, knowing how it transitions, this is the right use, right? Like it's detached, it's less than, it's slightly more dense than that. It gets you easy to 36, 37, that we were trying to be very cognizant of that and something that's appropriate. And also, this is also quite off the road. I mean, no one else unless you live back there is gonna see it.
I know you all are always worried about setting precedent, and I think the product type here differentiates it from other types of homes where that might be more appropriate with bigger scale, things like that. And then the unique nature of the site and its setting and what's around it is also something that differentiates it.
Let's see, on your street parking, which I guess you're going to do one side and so on. I don't know what you've got in the way of street width and stuff. You need to include that information. That's just for fire, EMS, school buses, township trucks in this case. Though they won't be on it because it's private, probably, at least
Yes.
fire emergency and stuff will.
Am I right? The fire, the street, they commented kind of on the first set of plans with street widths, and we were pretty good, but to answer your question, we will certainly go down, make sure it's in there, and we understand the process that it's really got to be buttoned up.
All right. I didn't see any mention of this one. I imagine it was in the first one. And we've had a number of cases since then. Fire hydrants on the non-parking side and so on. I mean, yeah, well, we don't really want to regulate that on the private streets too bad, but we want it on the safety side for.
Absolutely.
Okay. So that's really all the questions I had on.
Student vinyl, I knew we were gonna get the same kind of runaround as past times. And I think just like, again, making sure that number, like there's a percentage set in stone of this many houses, and what that looks like. And I know we've said it before, making sure that we can get everything into one book, for the final. That way,
Absolutely.
we're not fishing back and forth between multiple books would be so helpful.
Fair enough.
And then the walking path, I remember the last time we were talking about seating and some things maybe around in there. Is there still any ideas for that? Or did you, I think you guys were gonna look at that.
Yeah, we, from the past,
Yeah,
we really
that
had
map.
to update the exhibits on the center green and what that looked like and call it out very specifically. The path, we have it as a limestone trail with the planning right around it, but I didn't have anything else specific in there, so I can build on that.
Yeah, I would definitely build on that, because I think we were mentioned something about, you're walking on the path, and then if somebody was just, sit down and observe nature, just a couple benches, or I don't know, dog walking, waste centers or something. And then I noticed the sidewalks connect on one side of the road. There are no sidewalks on the, 95 through 106. Are there any sidewalks, or you just can't see them because of the trees? And the same thing for 65 through 69 and 70 through 81. It just seems like the sidewalks kind of
Are only on one side.
on one side and they stop.
We do have sidewalks on one side, and I will get you an answer for that, but there's some reason for that. And I don't know what it is. There's something to do with,
So like, for example, it just kind of stops in the street at 31 and then picks up at the end of the stop at 30. And the same at 55, it stops at the street, but then you would have to, if you were, I'm just
yeah.
picturing making a loop on a sidewalk.
Yeah,
And it would pick up at 56 and go down to 95, but then I can't see from the sidewalk there. And then you'd have to cross the street to go to 17, to go across to the emergency access road, and people will be walking on that access road to get to the path,
we'll get you,
which is fine.
we'll get you an answer on that.
I think that would be, one of my questions. And then there was one. And I'm sorry, I lost my notebook. I had my notes from the last meeting. That's so bad. But I did look over the minutes. What other was the corner? I think you covered it. We were concerned about the top
Yeah,
person right here in the top north corner.
Yeah.
And you guys got them
Okay.
covered on mounting and walking.
Yeah.
I think that was, just making sure that everything's, really hammered down and set in stone. I like this type of neighborhood. I think I mentioned in the last time, it's kind of what our starter home was. And, I've been talking to a lot of parents lately of my kids' age kids, and their parents are looking to move to be closer and don't necessarily need a gigantic house, and these fit that bill really well. And
Sure.
so I like the idea and the concept.
We appreciate that. And your point's well taken on the details. I think we intentionally were just trying to get.
Right, and I know you're trying to get a feel,
We'll make
but,
sure we've got all these I's dotted and T's crossed.
Mhm.
So I won't bring up anything that's already been said. Where I will go is, I do want to confirm that mounding and the trees, and I think I just missed it, but you do have, it does look like there's evergreens on the mounding, and it's not just all deciduous, correct?
So you're talking about a potential.
Yes,
Um,
yeah.
Typically, there would be a mix.
So,
You want to make sure there's coverage year round, right? Sunscreen.
yes, so I wanted to make sure that that was deciduous as well, because I guess I wasn't looking at the right one. What I was looking at was on, it says G2.
Yeah.
And I thought that those were all the same tree. There wasn't actually a call out as to which trees they were.
This is confusing, but there are, so it says there's 4, if you go from the fence back,
There's 30.
yeah, 4 AL, 4 CA, 4 AL, so they're all ornamental trees, 4.
I saw the ornamentals, yeah, but I was looking more for the actual evergreen. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was my piece there. The next piece, and a lot of it was around the entrance.
Okay.
So it felt like the homes got closer to the road.
They probably did slightly,
Yes,
just to be, we're spreading,
you were trying to spread.
managing a lot of different
Yeah, and I get
considerations.
that. What I did is I started going back and measuring to places where we're not as proud of in the township. And, one that sticks out is on Shanahan Road.
Okay.
That is being built right now. And it feels like they're in the road, the greenery.
You know what that distance was? Did you go back and look?
I did. So from the first house to the road is
100 feet.
100 and, I
125.
have 130 feet, and I'm actually looking at the back of, what I did is I actually measured out the back of the other house, because on the outer site, because it's not here yet, right?
Yeah.
So it's 130 feet, give or take a tiny bit.
Yeah.
So it looks like that's along the side of house 1. So that's 130 feet. When I go over and I look at the greenery, the first house did start at 116, so it's 15 feet closer, okay, 14 feet
Can I
closer.
ask you maybe a dumb question?
Yes.
What's the green?
The greenery is across the road from Shanahan Middle School
It's the one that-
Shanahan.
and on
Oh,
Shanahan.
I thought you were pointing at something on the.
I'm
page.
pointing at my notes. Sorry, I'm pointing at my notes.
I'm like looking around like.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
Because as I looked at this, I'm like, it's getting really close. Like, I'm happy that we shifted it the way that we did to give the other resident more privacy.
Mhm.
But then I look at what it's now done, and the thought was keep it feeling like no one knows it's back there, right? Which we don't need to make it so no one knows it's back there. That's not, I'm not trying to say that. But what was concerning to me is because, and I want to watch my words, but because the greenery does feel like it is in Shanahan Road, and it's not appealing when you drive by and see so many houses right up close. And this reminded me of that, especially when I started measuring. So to the back of the lot, to the back of that lot, which goes somewhere around almost the middle of house 6, it's 398 feet. Again, I'm measuring all this from the auditor's site, okay? Over at the greenery, so there's 5, almost 6 full houses that go through there. Over at the greenery, the road from the side of the 6th house is 366 feet. So they're going to the edge of house 7, and you guys are slightly better than that, but that's what concerned me is just like when you are driving down that street, and there's middle school across the road, there's a lot of farm field there, which is, we know is going away. But that feels more residential already than what this feels like, because it is up against the park. And those houses are so in your face as you're driving down. And I hate to see that happen here.
All right, let me take a look at that. I just certainly, the throat of this is so narrow.
I know.
That it could almost be on the road and you wouldn't know it until you got up next to it. I mean, there's so
Yeah.
much on 3 Bs and a K that I never stop at the right place for this
Yes.
property. And so I think it'll have slightly different feel than out on Shanahan on an open farm there, but I will look into that and see what we can do to help with that.
Yeah, because that's my biggest concern, honestly, is you're going from much more of a, granted, on the other side of the road, right? It's everything with North Lake Preserve and the Schottenstein homes and all of that, and the condos. But on this side, that's closest to the parkland, and it's all, ravines, and it's beautiful. You guys are keeping so much of it the same. I hate to see it blow straight out into, to the road. So that was my biggest call out, is the greenery. It feels like it's sitting right on top of the road, especially with so many houses so far out, that I wasn't sure if there was a way that you could curve a road more to fit a couple more houses so you could get a little bit more back. Another example that I had was when I went over and measured from Long Meadows. Where did that note go? That house was, all right, that house was, I want to say, the first house. The first house was, it was similar to the same distance, which made me feel okay. But with that one, that 400 feet went into the fourth lot, basically, the side of the fourth lot, or you're still on lot 3 of coming in from the road. So even when they're closer to the road, like a first house could be close to the road, you get that feel when then you can see so many houses in a row that it just starts to feel that claustrophobic feel, basically. Does that make sense?
Yeah, well, as we get this submittal, I will examine that and do my best to help understand the setting out there and what you're guarding against. I'm gonna get outside the greenery and feel that a little bit too.
You can't miss it.
It sounds like it.
I mean, that's something that we're very happy in some ways to have in the township, because there's a need for long-term rental homes for people that just don't have the ability to purchase a home, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that need was there, and that's been there for, that plan has been there for many, many years in the works. So it's nice to see that come to fruition, but it does, something that a hard pill to swallow is how close they are to the road, and trying not to have that happen again.
And honestly, I think with the trees, on the south side, the trees where they are, even just 1 and 2 would be.
Yeah,
Just
just finding another spot or another even one that you could push it back.
That's what I was thinking too, that with the throat, it's so narrow, and with the things that I think I can probably work with it. So I understand the comments, and we'll study it and address it.
Okay. I'm not concerned about that roof pitch, don't care. With what you've done on the interior now, I feel more comfortable with that. I do like that it's to 15 feet. I completely understand with what you're saying, with where Ray was going. In our code, we're not distinguishing between condos, which are owned, but still it's maintained, right? It's maintained by an HOA. We don't really have a distinction between those two. And that's where Ray was saying it's something that we have to go back and look at to be able to put that distinction in, because in the BCO, we do have those types of, we have more of those types of neighborhoods built out, or earmarked, basically.
It's a tough thing, and we see it everywhere. I mean, you design a zoning code at some time in development, and life changes for everybody, and you try to fit it in. I get it.
Yeah. So, so I do like overall, what has been done. I like where the benches are. I thought, along with that, in the main area, I understand why you only put them at one end and not the other, because the mailbox is at the other. It was a balancing, so I was totally fine with that. Making sure you have detail in there about your access from a wheelchair handicap perspective. around the mailbox will be important. So that you'll wanna have that in there. And then I noticed the sidewalks and was wondering if that was done on purpose or, so getting some clarification, making sure that we truly do have, if they can't be on both sides the whole way for a reason, okay, but just making sure that we don't have a start and then no continuing,
Great,
so.
great, I can handle that. Okay, thank you for your candid feedback and discussion, that's exactly what we wanted to come back for tonight. I kind of think I got what I needed. What, anything else, or do you, what?
We want to.
Oh, yeah.
We want to ask the audience.
Yeah, so I'll turn it over to the audience now. And
When
when
you
you
ask Josh to identify himself, did you give your name and address and position maybe?
Josh Barkin, Division Vice President, MI Homes, Central Ohio, 4131 North Avenue, Columbus, 43219.
All right, thank you.
So we'll open it up to the audience now. If you can state your name and your address, so that Lisa can document that for the minutes, that would be wonderful.
I'm Chris,
Okay.
I live on 6754 Calverville Road. I live right next to Elm Creek State Park. I'm really frankly disgusted that we're talking about putting this kind of a development right next to the park. We don't have that anywhere else in our township, and I don't think it's a good use. We constantly have people coming down our road to use the park, because there's no parking down there, and it's a dangerous situation. And I think what we've got here is an invitation for people to come into the park where they're not supposed to. I mean, the park is very controlled where the access is, as it should be. And I'm concerned that we're literally pushing it right up next to the park instead of having properties back there that allow people to have homes that would not allow people to just wander through and into the park when they should have that access. And I don't know if anybody else has that concern, but I've lived next to the park for 37 years, and I love it, and I think that people should enjoy it, but they should enjoy it the way the rangers would like them to do that. Particularly in the area, that, there isn't a year that goes by that I don't jump out of my skin when the hunters are out, right there. And they, they're not trying to invade our space, but I literally have woken up in the morning hearing raccoon hunters out in our ravine on our property. And so putting something this close to the park doesn't make sense to me.
Thank you. That was a very big discussion in the last meeting, specifically around hunting. And that is something that we are still, it's out of our control from a zoning perspective. However, because it's not something we have jurisdiction over. But it is something that we are very concerned about as well. So,
Who would we take that up if it wasn't zoning?
Levi, do you know who?
The state or the state or the trustees. I mean, you could talk to the trustees, but their jurisdiction, I mean, you would have to talk to the state.
It's either them or the Army Corps of
Yeah.
Engineers.
Yeah. The Army Corps of Engineers probably. Maybe go to the trustees first and then they will look into.
The Army Corps of Engineers can't control Canada's adjacent. They can control-
Exactly. They control
And
the land.
What we're counting on you guys to do is protect that space. And, we have a zoning code that says we don't need multi-family or, this density. We could do what the zoning, the township zoning says, which is if you have an acre of land, you can build whatever you want. So
So that is
maybe
correct.
those last couple of things along should be retained according to the.
So that is correct. We are a right to sell and a right to build on, township. With that being said, there is an overlay that was created, that did allow for a certain zoning, and that is where, the representatives up here said that they are choosing to not pull that down. When that was created, the entire, Sandra Faber's entire property in that overlay was the 27.796 acres that butts up against Winter Lane. When the overlay was created and decided upon, it was that we wanted to ensure, we meaning trustees, zoning, everyone, residential, what was discussed and what was ultimately decided on is no one wants to build on land next to a park, because it does, but we needed to put something in order to make sure that when someone did come along, there was a tentative plan for it. So that 27, almost 28 acres was slotted to be, if you pulled down the cloud, was slotted to be 40 units per acre. And so that's what they were saying. A very small sliver then, where the entrance, basically it's where, it appears to be where the emergency access road is. And back on that 25 acres was what was R10. Because there was a fight to get more higher density in, to be able to allow people to move into Berlin Township that maybe couldn't afford to buy, and to bring in apartments. There was a very big push to bring in more apartments and more quote unquote affordable living, which I would call apartments affordable living at all at this point. But that was the perspective. So the thought across it was, how do we ensure that we are protecting enough of the buffer, those around already, and where it was most populated was on that more northern one. So that's where R4 was put in. What they've done is that they have that with the trust that is being sold, the portion that's being sold, they've combined a portion of that. So the farmer, am I saying that the farmer? Okay. They're maintaining a portion of the land, a portion of that 27 acres.
And is that 27 acres along the curb?
I'm sorry, what?
It's not along the
Oh, it backs up to it. The back portion backs up to it.
Okay, you good.
So,
You have 27 acres that is not.
so I'll just show you this, okay? So this portion right here, this is the house that's for sale on North of BZK. Go on. Oh, it's down further? Okay, sorry. Okay, so, this right here is the portion that is part of the 27, okay? And Farber still will have
Right, and
these.
should that be along the
Correct.
other?
This is the parkland.
Right,
So this is what was supposed to be in order to preserve the residents that were there. And this section down here, right here, was what was R10, okay? What they have done is they said, they've taken a portion that was intended to be R4, that actually had the road frontage to get a road in. And they combined it with what was R10 and what was intended to be R10 in the overlay in the cloud that was brought down. That we put as some type of, so everything just didn't go haywire, right? If they decided to sell the land. And they've said, we don't want to make a portion of it R10, we would rather make it all R4. So what that does is, it's 4 units per acre, essentially, okay, net developable acre. So what they're doing now is, that's how we're at, what are we at now? Is it truly 111?
106.
106, yes, thank you.
3.9.
So now we are lower across the whole thing, which is a benefit, but it is still disappointing from the perspective of all of us that have lived here and loved it for so many years. It is a hard pill to swallow, but it is the right of people to sell their land. So it's that it's that balancing act that we are having to look at. We have to allow development, but it's how can we help bring development that is palatable and is not too dense.
And you've got
right?
that across the street on 3BZK, that.
We do, correct.
Whatever you call that thing, but it's not along the park. I could be totally wrong, but I don't believe
It's
anywhere
not.
along Elm Creek is there a development, like, right on the park.
There's not.
That's my concern.
There is
Not as much
the
the
Elysian.
Elysian, but the
Oh, Elysian will be.
The Elysian was approved in the BCO. It's an apartment complex directly on the other side of the reservoir from this.
And that's apartment complexes.
Oh, that's what's it.
And I think that was the point that they were trying to make, is that they could be putting in apartment complexes, and their choice is to make these single-family condo homes that are, maintained by an association versus putting in, because they have the right as the property owners, if the property owner sells, they have the right to, on the south property, to put in apartment complexes
I
under
can say
a
that, and again, what I'm talking about is right next to the park. Whatever you do right next to the park, it should be an acre of land, you build a home on it, or it just, to me, in my opinion, that's what belongs along the park.
Understood.
And I've been watching it for a lot of years.
Yeah.
Watching a lot of hunters, a lot of activity.
So what I would encourage you to do is at the point, so we already know we're going to be continuing the meeting tonight, okay? That we won't be voting. But what I would encourage you to do is just keep coming to the meetings and come to, you can reach out to the trustees. And you can talk to, I would encourage you to talk to these guys too, okay? And talk to the trustees. You can, I welcome you to also contact Allen Creek, some of the officials within the state park, and see who should I bring these concerns to.
So in our Ohio Department of Natural Resources
Okay.
would be one, I think.
Yeah. Because those are, as I said, this was a huge topic in the previous discussion back on November 12th. We spent a very good amount of time talking about the hunting, and what could happen there, with homes being so close.
Sound like it went in there from what I heard about you.
Okay.
I'm sorry, that's all I heard was it seemed to be going on deaf ears. And if that's the case, then we need to change that, because it is a big concern. Living along the park it's wonderful in some ways, but if you're gonna put 106 units there, that's a lot of people that are going to be inundated with other people coming through their property to get to the park. When they shouldn't be going that way at all.
Okay. Do we have anyone who else would like to go?
You got it.
Jeff Kenko, 95, 43 BZK. I don't know who I am, one of the hunters that are back there, but I really respect the land. And it's really one of the most beautiful spots in central Ohio. There's no trash, the water's clean. That's my biggest concern is you're gonna put 106 units up there on the hill now where the watershed's coming in direct contact with that land. How much of the chemicals is gonna be into the water? The algae problem at Allen Creek is already at an enormous high, in my opinion. To me, that's from the fertilizers put on the lawn, the Roundup that's put into the ground, and you're just basically, you might as well be dumping a 55-gallon drum of the poison right into the lake at this point in time. It's a lake where we all, a lot of us eat the fish out of, a lot of us swim in there, a lot of us kayak in there. The animals that go back through the woods, the horseback riders, their animals drink from that water. So I have a concern about that. Also, where does the road water waste go to from the development? Because if it dumps directly back into the ground to drain back into the lake, I have a problem with that as well.
The sewer waste,
Yeah.
yeah, it will go into a sewer that's in 3Bs and K. It will go down to 36, 37, and they're in the process of redoing the regional pump station.
Okay. And I'm oblivious to some of this. Is there a way to develop a filter to keep this stuff going into the watersheds? Because I mean, it really is, if you've never walked back there, it really is a beautiful place. I mean, I see God's creation back there, and so I walk back there. And we don't mind sharing it with people, but we're very selective on who we share it with, because we want people that are going to respect the land, not leave trash, not do stuff that's wrong back there. And that was my biggest concern as well. If there's no park entrance in the development, people are just gonna be walking through other people's land to get to the park, and that's gonna be a problem. And then also the hunting aspect is that during hunting season, you're not supposed to walk back there during hunting season, except for Sundays, because they're not on Sundays. And if there was a major entrance to the park, then that's something that could be, the people could see the signs to know that, hey, I mean, I know people are still gonna break rules around people back here all the time during hunting season, but it's not, I have a problem with, if you're having 4-bedroom houses, there's gonna be kids roaming through the woods at any given point in time, and I would like to not know that happening. Yes.
Can I ask for their sake and maybe so they can help address it? How do people get there now?
I go down to the park on 36, 37 and cross the road and go that way. I also have a boat, so tie off into the cove and open there that way. Or and I don't know why the entrance to Haverlow is that we can't park there, but I've had people drop me off at the Haverlow, and I can and then come back and pick me up. But yeah, I mean, it's a very secluded place, but since all the housing was going in across 3Bs in the K, I've noticed people with electric bikes driving back through there to get through there, and it's just, to me, it's gonna be a problem.
And just maybe if others who maybe live here can comment so they can address that. Introduce to the area.
He has had his hand up from the very first, yeah, I
It's
saw
so
that.
patient.
Okay, oh no, behind, yeah, I wanted to make sure you guys, no, I want you guys to go first, because they've had their hands up.
Okay, I'm Stacy Cox. I live 6861 Haverlow Road. I own 5 properties in Bergman Township, 2 of which are on one side of the entrance, another one on the other side of the entrance. I am extremely concerned about the traffic going down 3Bs and K. We're 300 feet from another intersection. There's a dip. It's a very narrow entrance. The traffic going to my house at this point down 3Bs and K is crazy. And people just fly up and down. I just don't see how that entrance is gonna work like that. I just would like more clarification on that.
So there is a plan to redo the roads right there. We cannot speak to that. But there is an intention to change, how the roads function and run right there. And it's from a perspective of starting from 36, 37, going up north through Bs and K. Levi, can you comment? I don't want to misspeak on anything.
I don't know what the most recent plan is. It's on the Delaware County Engineers website. Ray could probably speak to that a little bit. I see he lives right there.
There's gonna be a lot of changes there.
All 3Bs and K.
Yeah,
Okay.
I live in Africa Road,
Okay.
where it dead ends into 36, from the house in the woods. All right, they're going to move Route 36 and Route 37. They're gonna split them right after they come off the bridge heading eastbound
Right.
on Elm Creek. Route 37 is gonna continue the way it is today. Route 36 is gonna come right to the edge of my property, take out the RCD camper place and head down to the new giant earth mound, as I call it, on 71. So the south end of 3Bs and K South will be cut off from Route 36. The north end of it, they've had about 4 or 5 different plans on what they're gonna do with north 3 BZK. Everything from cutting it off and forcing it to go to Four Winds to Howard to you name it. And I don't know which one they're currently at, because this last year, they decided that they would revisit the entire plan. ODOT did. So they are in the midst of doing that right now, and they just completed the EPA reevaluation, and they have not even published those results yet. They weren't published this week.
I'm not aware.
So those plans are still up in the air. But what you're talking about is being looked at by ODOT, and I would encourage you, if that is a big concern there, is to get a hold of ODOT District 6, which is 136 right as you go to the Delaware, because they still have input to those plans.
Those are long-term plans, right? This will be finished before they do anything on 3 BZK. So we're still gonna have the problem of the left turn into this 106 houses, potentially 200 and some cars
I understand that.
turning right, left and into this.
I know they'll have to finalize the plan pretty quickly, because the final engineering for the whole plan is to be done by this May.
The one you just described?
Yes. The final engineering for that, according to District 6, is to be finalized by May, and they are going to start some of the construction yet this year, 25. Which end of it they'll start on, either in 71 where the new interchange is, or at Allen Creek, I don't know. They haven't said yet.
To be completed by 2037.
That's right. Exactly. There's a whole lot of phases to it.
So then on the north side of the entrance, I know you had talked earlier about the mounting and the screening. What kind of screening is there gonna be? What kind of mounting
Do you wanna talk to that?
We have a landscape plan along that, that really has, trees every handful of feet to make sure there's a buffer in around that property line. That's on our exhibit G.
So no mounting?
I'm not sure if there's room, we can certainly look on the backside, there will be room for
So that's where the ornamental trees are?
Yes, that is correct. I don't know all of the kinds, I can look here.
You got some,
We have a mix of things.
How many feet from that property line, my property line, is the edge of the road?
I do not know the answer to that.
Which one? Which?
The 357, the northern property.
Are you the northern?
So,
Northern
which,
and southern property owner.
so are you asking, can you come up here and check this? Are you asking?
I'm asking how far from my property here is the road? And is there mounting here? What are we doing to protect my property?
These are all trees, and this is where they're looking at trying to put mounting now.
Which he just said there is not mounting, and there's not room for mounting.
He said he does not know if there's room for mounting, yes. But they're putting evergreen trees, so that was where I was speaking to when I first started talking.
Right, and I,
What trees are there, because I don't want just deciduous there. So making sure that we're very much protected with evergreens there.
right, but you said that there are ornamental and some evergreens mixed in. And then you said there's not room for mounting just now?
I said I don't know if there's.
Okay.
I think on the backside for sure, on the east side.
How far from my property line is this road?
How far from the property line is that road?
I have to find out, it looks like it's 40 or 50 feet. How far is the house from the property line? The house
Just
is.
my property line, doesn't matter where the house is,
Well,
from the property line.
Well, he's wondering how, because that can help determine how far away the road is.
yeah, one of my, I got it.
I'll have to go out and measure.
So I can tell you that what I had said is from the edge of, from the back of the house to the road is 130 feet. So,
Yes. I bet there's 30 or 40 feet from the road to the property line. Maybe I'll get that measurement for you.
And there's going to be, you also have a fence there, a split rail, well, it's not, it's a rail fence
Yeah, you're right.
along that side as well.
Yeah, you're right. It's a good point. I didn't even,
We already have.
we've also added another. Which we think will look really good. I mean, the goal is to buffer it and help make it look good.
Did you wanna,
Sure. Chris Stevens, 124 North River. So back to some of the traffic concern again. I saw the traffic study, which was included this time. And I talked to the county engineer, which I think it's just been given to them, so they haven't had time to review it. But again, there is a concern. I understand, I can appreciate you purchased a beautiful piece of property. But I keep hearing a limitation that the entrance to this is very narrow, so we can't do certain things. And I don't think that's anybody else's issue. I understand the predicament that you're in. I think you could have probably purchased additional property to make that wider. It just so happens though that the entrance to this, again, very narrow, but it literally is in the dip of a road that people do drive very fast, and it's within 300 feet of an existing intersection. And so in the traffic study, according to Delaware County standards in their own report, there was, it basically qualified for having to have a turn lane into it. Then they applied an ODOT standard, even though it's a county road, and then decided that the recommendation is that in lieu of putting in a turn lane, we'll make some sort of, I don't know, donation to somebody. And I guess to your point, you know, ODOT was just at my building, we did the EPA meeting. From every discussion I've had, yes, over the years, they've talked about doing something with that intersection. But the current that we've heard is that all the attention is on Africa and nothing really being planned for 3Bs at this point. I feel like Four Winds has satisfied that. But you're gonna have some of the traffic's gonna go down Four Winds, some down 3Bs and K. And you're not gonna be able to see it. I drove down again tonight, just pictures, it doesn't matter if you're at intersection of Summit Drive, or if you're coming toward this development, you cannot see what's happening.
or I know that road very well.
Yeah. So I just still have not seen anything to address that. I think just to say, well, we'll make a donation in lieu of safety, I think is inadequate.
On that note, originally when we put this plan together, our entrance, the entrance road was where the emergency access is, like closer to the southern property. But it was actually flipped to the north because of that sight distance issue that you're talking about. And it passed. I mean, that's what the engineers did. It didn't pass when it was on the south side, actually. The sight distance, the dip, you're exactly right, is there and was problematic. As we flipped it to its current position, it passes muster of the sight distance.
So it's like a foot higher than it was?
Yes, it was a big,
Still in the dip.
You're spot on the problem.
Okay.
It was, we had to flip it. The other thing on the field blue, I mean, it's something we did out here on Berlin Station. I mean, we do all over the county. We've done it in the Galena part of the county.
I get more on it.
And so, Delaware County is very structured on if this, then this. Sometimes we do the improvement, sometimes we don't. It depends on if they have larger plans. This particular one, there was not a desire for us to do it because whatever we would do was going to get ripped up very soon after, for whatever the plans can be. And I understand that it could be a number of things.
So it says, considering the foregoing turn lane should not be installed on North 3Bs and K Road simply because its classification as a major collector. When that role in the transportation network has been supplanted over time by four-wheel drive, turn lane warrant analysis under ODOT guidelines and capacity analysis of intersection operations without turn lane improvements show no need for turn lanes to meet DCEO operational goals. The project should be permitted to pay a fee in lieu of turn lane improvements to DCEO as contribution to higher priority needs in the area.
I'm saying,
So that's not
There aren't,
We completely understand.
yeah, I'm just saying there aren't
Yes.
some of the plans. They've talked about things for a long time, but the attention
Yep.
really is not on that road.
We completely understand, and trust me, it is not falling on deaf ears.
No, and we know we have a recourse with the county engineer as well, so.
And we do have a limitation. We are not allowed to, I know it's gonna sound terrible, but
No, you're right.
we're not allowed to make traffic part of our decision.
100%. And that's why, like I said,
Yes.
I talked to the county engineer today, so
Yeah.
that'll be kind of more of the recourse there.
It's, again, it's a hard pill for us to swallow because it comes into every single conversation that we have. And it's a very big concern in a lot of the neighborhoods that are going in and different developments that are going in, because there often are very big safety and traffic concerns.
If it was wider, if they would have
Yes,
purchased a piece of property next to it, so they
it
could have
would be
done
as
it
big of
better,
an issue.
this would be much, much better.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you. You're up.
Mike Mylosh, I live up at 925 North 3 BZK, which is right up at Everlow. I also own the property right at the corner of 3 BZK and 36, the commercial property on the northeast corner. Been there 30 plus years, been through a few different zoning things around the area. I did get a chance to get out and look at the plans a little bit. I didn't dig into them that wholeheartedly. Overall, just looking at it, the parking in there just to me looks so wholly inadequate, as far as within the property, it's pretty narrow, things are close. Any visitors, things like that, I think it's gonna be very tight. I mean, that just looks like a mess, but, as far as the park, you're talking about the boundaries and things, one of the concerns that I have, the question about Everlow and why that got closed off, and Chris can try to speak to this more so than I, but I know Lloyd's down there, we had problems with fires. Because people were going back in there, kids were going back in there building bonfires and stuff. They had grass fires get going, they had fire in the woods. Lloyd's caught it one time, and this happened a number of times, that's why that got closed off. If you put these properties right against the line, you got a lot of kids. Currently, there's not really, I don't know that there's that many kids accessing in that part of the woods. And the access for the fire people, that would be good to talk to the park officials, because they go, when they get kids going in there, graduation, whatever, they're going back and jumping off the cliffs. They've got the police, the park police, everybody's stopping them, keep somebody from dying. We get a parking in our driveway, blocking my driveway, blocking Everlow. We're constantly calling the police to have them, chased. They get out of there and they've gone back in looking for the kids swimming. So I can see that happening. You're gonna have that in spades, because they're gonna be living 50, some of them are 50 feet from the border, from the line. One of the questions is how the park police, and I didn't see any access for officials or parking spots or anything if there is a fire, if there is something in the park because of this kind of thing. We're gonna have LA, you get a fire going, it's gonna be into the development pretty quick because it's very close. But just something there so there's access for the park people to get in there. I don't think you want them blocked from that big of a chunk of the park. For us getting in there, other than through the property owners, we come in at Everlow and walk. When I go down there running to do stuff, I'm coming from clear up at Everlow and walking down through, or you can come up from 36. So the fire access, the kids swimming, just generally the authorities being able to have someplace to park and get in there because somebody's lost or somebody went off a cliff or whatever. So that's me. And the BZC traffic, I drive that road multiple times a day, and there's people come down there at
Crazy speeds.
70 miles an hour, not unusual at all, so that'll be a mess. That many people coming and going. I don't know, going out of there and going around the Four Winds, the intersections there aren't the greatest either. The one is, you start having that many cars turning and going around through the turnaround and all that. I think that's going to end up being that's going to be a mess. So,
I can speak to one of your questions, the emergency access. So there's a second access point right on the back side of the properties, towards the south. So that's where they were talking about the entrances got flipped. There's an emergency access, point there that comes around the back of all of, the first portion of properties that are in there. And it meets up with Street B, it's called right now.
Right, is there a place for,
And they,
I know
they
before,
can
there wasn't any
just
place
straight-
for a fire truck or any, like parking in there or something happens.
There's not technically parking, but there is a access point straight back to where it's not a cul-de-sac, it's just a T right at just up from the property line of the state park.
That's a road into the park or access?
It's a road
So,
that
like, here's
dead
the
ends
emergency.
basically right at the house that's on the border of.
Okay. Again, the park police or somebody pull in there, where's the parking gonna be?
Walking around,
They're
walking
gonna be
house.
blocking driveways that they gotta get in there for something, there's no.
So some things to consider there. It's that fine line if you don't wanna create parking spots for people,
Yeah, this doesn't, we don't
To
want
just
turn
use
this
the
into an
access.
entrance into the park,
Yeah.
certainly.
but then, yes,
So that's why they put a gate up at the end of Carver Road.
yeah,
Pretty well, because the emergency people can get in there, but
exactly,
nobody
yeah,
else can.
And they will need to, because there will be a
Yes.
fire, there will be somebody
oh, I'm
pushing
sorry,
it back in their access, so.
Yeah.
It will happen. I get kids coming, walking through my property with their fishing poles, trying to get into my pond or crossing my property to get down the reservoir. I mean, they're coming through the property to get back to the park, so.
What's the highest amount you've collected for parking?
Yeah.
That I get, that's
Let's
supposed to
see
be
how
mine.
much there, yeah.
My retirement fund is.
there you go.
Leaving a $200 leaving fee when they park in there, we got.
Good thing on their tire, can't get it off until you
I
pay
got a
the
skid
fee.
loader, I can move blocks, blocks in,
I'm Rod Lawrence. I live at 6788 Blue Lane. And I did the Twin Acre Farm development there and live there now. I'd like to bring this back kind of to a focus on zoning. And when the township, did the overlay out here, I went to those hearings and followed it and all of that. And is the overlay, it's still zoned FR1, right? This property?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct.
And the overlay is a suggested development plan essentially.
Correct.
And when they did that at the hearings, I stood up and talked about how you gotta do this from a macro or a micro perspective, not a macro perspective. And it seemed like the officials at that time said, we're gonna take this from the current commercial development at the interchange and take it all the way to Delaware and provide some areas on both sides where we can for this commercial development. And what I argued then with regard to this specific property is that doesn't take into account specific areas and what's right for them and what may not be right for them. And specifically, my concern was, this is first of all, going north on 3Bs and K, it's 1 to 2 acre lots and residential development, but it's also on the park. And that wasn't considered at all when they did the broad stroke commercial development plan. It doesn't mean that it's right for this area. It doesn't mean putting in a high density development right there is right. Talked about, well, this is a great way to transition. No, I think if you'd ask anybody in the area, the best way to transition is to make it 1 to 2 acre lots from right behind the commercial development that's already there and going up the road because that's what's there. But the key element here that I didn't hear any of you talking about was, again, the park. This is a different area than the rest of the distance. What's gonna be right out here for apartments and affordable living doesn't mean that it's right here. And again, the way they've got it done with 12 feet apart, 15 feet apart now, it does end up with a high-density development that doesn't fit any of the areas north, and it's right up against the park. One of the things that really just gets my goat here is the township not appreciating the park as an asset of the township. And you can't say that a development like this, right up against the border of the park, doesn't degrade the park for everyone. For the people in the township, the people that live right there, who all talk about it, as well as people of the state. And it doesn't make sense to have about 50 units within 150 feet of the park. It's atrocious. It is high density, and it doesn't make sense for that area. And so, again, I come back around, the job of you people seems to be to review whether this is truly compatible within that little micro area, or whether it's not. They don't have, you can't say, well, they could have put in 3-story apartment development right in there. Well, no, they have to get zoning approval for that. 3-story apartment development wouldn't make any sense either. I said to somebody else, just like a trash working power plant wouldn't make sense right there. You know, just because something worse could go in doesn't mean that this is right for the area itself. So I would like for that to be considered. I submitted a written letter for the last hearing.
And that was read in, yes, it was read in, yes. We very much appreciate what you've said. We are all residents as well. We have very similar concerns. I'm only speaking for myself, but we have very similar concerns. It is a right to develop area. The township can get sued very, very easily. Individuals can get sued very, very easily. So we have to take everything into consideration.
Can I add one thing? I will say, it's an overlay. It is a zoning. It is not just a comprehensive plan. I mean, it is a zoning. And also, the trustees at a township set the law of the township. And the question that is before the zoning commission is to carry out the law. I mean, the trustees set this overlay gets in place. And the question
It's not required development plan though.
What?
It's not. I've been doing zoning and development work for 35 years. It's not.
Well, I would say that if someone brings in a plan under the overlay that meets the underlying code, the township would have no discretion to say no. It's an administrative process. And so, right, so that's what, while this has the FR1 zoning today, it also has that overlay, which is a part of the zoning and can be pulled down as of right if you meet the standards. And so that's what the
But
state.
you're not submitting a plan that comports with all the requirements. You're asking for divergences and you're asking for the change between the two areas. So there are bases for denying it and requiring that it be redone.
That's true, and then.
Yeah, to the apartments, is it true?
Yeah, then you leave open that possibility.
Open that possibility.
Yes.
Along with that, I keep hearing this, you can put apartments in there with the limitations on how apartments would have to be placed, the space that's there. What would the density be? How many units?
208.
Your legal should be about 6 units to the acre. Yeah, I mean,
And would that do a lot of the grading and work to get to that kind of enough ground to put that many apartments?
yeah, I have a plan for it right here. I mean, and there's a zoning, I believe I mentioned, there's already zoning on the west side of I mean, here's the zoning that's in the business park. You can see all of the zonings that were laid out. There's one already approved. And the question would be, would somebody come and be able to buy additional parcels south and put them together and build even more? That's where.
That's not this parcel you're talking about.
It could be this parcel too, but that's an example of that.
What would the setbacks and stuff be for an apartment building? How far would you have to be off the boundaries for that to meet code?
Levi?
I keep hearing that, I'm just kind of curious what the reality
I
of
don't
what
have
that
the
is.
code in front of me right now. I believe it's 50 feet from non-residential areas and 200 feet from residential areas. That's off the top of my head.
All right, thank you.
Is there anyone else that would like to speak? Okay. Would you like to say anything else?
No, I don't think so. I think we appreciate your feedback, and as always, we'll take it, seriously and sharpen our pencils and pens and come back to you with a more comprehensive plan with all the details in it, more akin to what you saw initially. But we appreciate you giving us the time tonight to just kind of walk something by you conceptually. Thanks.
I'm gonna make a request to continue to attend these or.
Yes, we are.
Okay.
Thank you for that.
I want to say the advertising.
Yes, we are, but like how, because I do want to do a full package.
Yes.
How much time do you need before any particular meeting?
We like to have 2 weeks.
Two weeks. All right, 2 weeks. I probably need 2 weeks to get a full package together. I mean, maybe 2.5 weeks. So say if I need, when would,
Just probably sometime in March 11th or 25th.
okay, I
The 25th is, we're
Okay.
we removed the
March
25th.
11th.
March 11th would be
Yeah.
fine.
Yeah,
We can, because then we gotta have it in by March, like the end of February, basically. Yeah, that's fine, March 11th, so, yeah, we'd like
Okay,
to,
we'll formally request that.
Okay.
okay. Yes, can I get a motion to continue, or to table, BZC 24-007
I make a
To
motion-
March 11th.
to March 11th.
I make a motion to table and continue BZC 24-007, Sandra B. Farber trustee, to March 11th, 2025. At a time and date certain, 7:00 at
March 11th.
March 11th.
At Berlin Township
At
Hall.
Berlin Township Hall.
I'll second that.
Okay, Ms. Shields,
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong,
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
Thank you.
thank you.
We will recess for about 5 minutes to let everyone, decide they want to stay or leave. Yeah.
Continue.
Now, please.
Okay, we're gonna go ahead and Zoom now.
Let me make sure.
I know, I did actually come back on. Okay, so we'll go ahead and continue. I had actually, I did not in mind to do, I was going to send Kathy a list of, like, the past year and a half of binders and say which ones can we get rid of. Because I noticed, when I came in to pick up our thing, I realized that my shelf was starting to dip on one side, and so I was like, Kathy, can you help? So I'm gonna get that to Kathy though, and then she's gonna look up everything and tell me what we can get rid of and what we need to keep, okay? But I had initially planned to do that, and then over the weekend, we were at the convention center the entire weekend. So I didn't get a chance to. Levi, do you have anything?
I have added some changes to the zoning resolution.
Okay.
Megan and Jerry are reviewing it. I'm gonna add some more changes.
Okay.
And then I think I'm gonna take a stab at, we're talking about setbacks for TPEB.
Yeah.
I'm gonna take a stab at that. And then once I apply Jerry and Megan's changes or modifications in mine, I'm gonna send a red line copy to everyone for review.
Yeah, I'd really like to see some discussion on what they want for side setbacks and so on. I mean, I was in your position when the fire department originally requested that.
Yeah.
And that's how it got in there that way.
Mhm.
And I can see where, in a case where you're gonna have condo buildings, multiple building, occupancy buildings and so on, 4 to 30 units, where we've got to do something different because that standard's not.
Yeah, I think there's an importance of determining a difference between what single family is versus condos and patio homes versus shared wall condos versus apartments.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
there some sort of standard that comes, and maybe this is out of our realm, but is there some sort of standard of building code that comes with apartments that are close, like when you're in regards to fire?
Fire does not have a
They don't.
requirement. There is, in the fire code,
Not now.
there is not a requirement.
I'm just thinking of like, if they were concerned about distance, like shared walls, when you've got a triplex
Right.
versus
Yeah,
condos being,
Yeah.
50
because there's
feet apart.
requirements, there's building requirements from a fire standard perspective.
Yeah,
And they're going up, so like, what are, like, as they're going through for approval, for
Absolutely.
building approval, so there should be something that we can apply from that. From the
I don't
zoning.
know from a zoning perspective. We can
That's what I'm saying, I don't
It's
know.
gonna be like a safe, building safety perspective maybe.
Yeah.
But we can't even, we're literally enforcing the binder that's the code. And that's kind of what I wanted to explain to people, like, it's hard to, and they don't listen to that necessarily. They don't want to hear that our job is to compare this to the code,
Yes,
but that is.
So
what
we
the
can make
job is.
recommendations on traffic,
Yes.
roads and
Yes.
things like that.
We
but
can put
can't-
notes in.
We cannot say, no, you cannot have
Because
this
there's a-
entrance there because
there's a-
there's a.
We can't do that because it's up to the county engineer.
and we all drive that, we know that.
Oh, yeah.
It is not good.
But it's not the only place either.
But it's up to the
No.
county engineer that has to fix it. Of course,
Yeah.
if it gets zoned, then they have to fix it, and then they have to take a bond from, the
Or if they can say, yeah, we'll take a fee in lieu of and apply this to the roundabout. So,
It doesn't.
and then it never gets done.
Exactly.
But that's why I read that out of that
Yes.
Absolutely.
traffic, because I wanted them to hear that, like, this is not some just like in lieu of, because I think they were taking it as like, oh, we're paying off
Thanks,
the
somebody
developer,
else.
paying somebody else to do that, but like, this is them saying, like, it doesn't need to be there, but here, here's what you're going to do instead.
Yeah,
Mhm. Yeah, I think that was important.
that's all I have. I will be at the OTA the rest of the week for the conference, and that should be entertaining, hopefully.
But it won't be.
So you will be there too.
So, something else that I did want to look at in the code was, this has felt wrong for a long time. I know that we needed to go back and look at our standards from a building size perspective. And for houses, because it starts out at, I think is it 600 or 800?
800.
Yes.
800, 900,000.
And what we've heard is that apartment sizes, makes me cringe, but there are apartments smaller than,
I think somewhere in our code, there's an allowance for apartments to be 600 single bedroom apartments. And it
Yes.
might be the BIO or BCO
but
or TPUD.
But on the flip side of that, so yes, but on the flip side of that, for our code to call out a house that's that small in an area where we don't have houses that small feels like a flaw.
I would say though, if somebody came in and bought a piece of FR1 ground and wanted to put a house
A
on
tiny
it,
house.
and or just an 800 square foot house that was one bedroom, it would be very hard to enforce. Like, no, it has to be 1,500 feet.
So.
That would be
maybe
you're keeping me from building my house on my
Yeah.
property. That far one.
So I think what it is when they are applying for a TPUD, when
Or
they're
a
applying for,
PCD,
yes, yes, any of those, I think we need to relook at it for that section of code and have it more specific, because we don't want a neighborhood bill of 800 square foot homes,
Yeah.
because
I think a lot
it's
of.
not, it's.
I'll have to look at the fair
It
housing
doesn't.
act on that.
That's like saying,
Yes, so there's, yes. So obviously, but what I want to make sure of is that as we go further into the areas that are going to be developed and pushback of, we're not going to build 10 units an acre.
Mhm.
We're not going to put in an apartment, but we're going to put in, 800 and 1,000 square feet homes.
Yeah.
That's not saying that we need to be 1,500, but there needs to be something more of the appropriate
I
size
think it's,
as well.
I think it might just be that a lot of stuff is very broad and it's not tailored to each section.
Exactly, the section. So
Yeah.
that was one area that I really noticed. And it's come up a couple of times where it's like, ooh, wow, we should change that. But we do need to change it. We need to make it more specific, because as we're having more meetings like this, it looks silly in what we're submitting for it to say that. And they're just copying what's in our code, but it doesn't, it's 800 square feet for a one bedroom, 900. And again, that makes sense in some sections of the code, but like not a TPUD, so.
I will look into that and
Okay,
see if I can tailor or something that you guys can. I'll get something in there and let you guys confirm the numbers. I'll put some generic numbers in there. I'm not sure.
Did we ever?
There's a lot of different
For any
size houses.
housing ever come about? What's his name?
oh,
Wasn't that one of the things, the extra things that he was working on in the.
you mean like the tiny home, the granny house? I don't know. We talked about.
I think
it
there's
a lot.
something about a granny flat, but
Okay,
maybe I'm thinking of a different township, but.
no, it came up in our township.
I know, but I've
Yeah.
read it somewhere. I'm not sure.
was supposed to be more.
Yeah, and I don't know.
What was that,
Solar.
not allowing it or allowing it or what? What did we,
Well, they currently allow
yeah.
a certain size, that sort of thing. But, I used to have applications for that, but it was, the easy way around it was, I'm just adding one to my house, as
Yeah.
long as I keep it in the setbacks. What I do inside my house, whether I've got a parent over there or what, why go to the,
Yeah.
Maybe
I think you're talking about like.
It's when you're in a bathroom and it gets hairy.
the extra house, yes, like a
Not
tiny
attached.
house.
It's just, then you're talking about the granny flats you buy
Not
and set in your driveway.
Yes,
Not attached.
not attached,
Yeah.
yeah. So building, having an ancillary building, and then this was one that came up because a homeowner in an HOA actually had brought up wanting to put an apartment over top of a garage
Mhm.
for their in-laws or for parents or something. And, there was a lot of discussion about that.
To me, that would be a non-zoning issue, because it's above a garage, it doesn't change the footprint of the house. If it meets the building codes of Delaware County, there's not anything.
There's only one thing that could have any difference on
What's that?
that, size of the leach field.
Yeah, but if it's on sewer, I don't,
It's on sewer.
I can't do anything about it.
But that got us talking about tiny homes
Absolutely.
and houses, people bringing tiny houses
Mhm.
onto existing,
Or like accessory buildings,
Yeah,
you use as
yeah.
residence.
Or can't, I think you even,
Right
I think
now-
it'd be good to even address using campers, as
Well,
said.
I think it says on campers in there somewhere you can only for 14 days.
yes.
Yeah, but the problem is enforcement of that.
Yes, barnum and
Yeah,
Amherst
because all they have
also.
to do is move it 5 feet, it's-
Hook it up, or it can look like you moved it,
So yes, your predecessor also was starting to look into condominiums.
Yeah.
That was another thing that we had said. These are getting to be bigger discussions around different areas that we should start looking at.
In barn doors, I'm pretty familiar with those in Delaware County.
Okay,
There, you can't build a pole barn to live in. It has to be on, it can look like a pole barn, but it has to be on a foundation.
yeah,
And once, if it's on an FR1 lot, we're not an ARB. We can't determine what it looks like.
yeah. Yeah,
You don't want to go down that road because it gets ugly quick. Like managing what everything looks like in FR1 districts.
oh yeah, no, and it was more just, are there? how do we
Delaware,
classify
so Delaware County has the requirements for that, and it
Okay.
has to be built to the same standards as a house.
it? Okay,
It can be a slab home, but it has to be on a foundation. It can't have holes in there.
okay.
They mixed the plan for the roundabout.
Did they?
So they're no longer by.
Wait, where is it?
Pine Beach Road.
Really?
Oh.
It's a new plan, I don't, they haven't given it to me.
They're good at changing plans, aren't they?
It was
Yeah.
just, I just started our property and then,
Oh, I didn't.
no, they're not. I gave them my email.
Huh.
They don't have to buy it anymore.
Okay, then.
Interesting. That's all I have. I will add those things to my list of things that I want before I get to you.
That's our stuff, because that's the end of it.
Maybe.
Did you need to approve minutes?
Yes.
Oh, yes, oh my gosh, thank you, yes, and that was remember that.
I'll make a motion to approve BZC minutes from
114.
2025.
I will second that.
Okay, Ms. Shields?
Yes.
Mr. Armstrong?
Yes.
Ms. Brown?
Yes.
To adjourn.
So our next meeting is on February 11th, and we are looking at the amendment for, is that Verbena?
Ravinia.
Verbena at Evans Farm. It was tabled from the January 14th,
So you weren't
when I
here.
wasn't here, yes.
And so they did not talk about the Ravinia at all, but they are coming back with the same.
They are, but they did submit their amendment for the PCD shape.
Okay.
And that is gonna be, the major minor is gonna happen on February 10th. So
So-
that hearing will be one of those ones where they're gonna talk about it, but it'll be tabled again.
So, wait, are we going to end up hearing what are we going to be reviewing for the February 11th meeting? I guess.
You should already have it. It's the same.
It was-
Oh, wait, it was what, when she gave me this binder?
Yeah.
It was,
It
okay,
was with that.
alright, okay, perfect. Alright, so I will,
And they may or may not have some different house drawings. The house drawings, the drawings of the houses in that aren't.
yes,
That's gonna be.
I saw.
So, yeah, that will be probably tabled after that,
Okay,
depending
But
on.
we will know if it's a major minor.
We will know on the 10th.
The day.
So the day before.
before, yes. Okay.
Yep.
Did anything come back from the lawyer from our last meeting. We got the, and I appreciate your putting out yours and Kathy putting out, or looking up and finding the minutes of what was approved and written by Jim Hahn. As
Yes.
far as our methods and procedures.
Mhm.
Clarified a couple of things, but the one thing it said was, as far as alternates and when they can be seated, it says it's under the procedures established by the trustees.
Mhm.
That piece we don't really have. However, what the lawyer said that day, or that evening, to me, was the fact that as long as you feel confident that you know what is going on,
Mhm.
you are to be seated. That's what she said.
Mhm.
So,
I haven't heard back from her. She said, thank you for getting that to her. I think she's kind of waiting to see what they decide to do. And then she'll give us instruction on what to do next.
Okay. Because it does, there's absolutely a disconnect in what,
oh yeah.
how we used to and then now how we, it
Absolutely.
doesn't make any sense for alternates at all, so.
No, it doesn't, because you're gonna have to have alternates every month.
I should be able to hold my feet up, right?
You're not that lucky. I'm trying, buddy.
Thank you for being here.
It was nature. Yes.
All right. Nothing else.
Nothing else here.
We signed the minutes already from last, and,
I did want to point out,
yes,
on the voting of this, because I heard somebody on this commission, not here tonight, ask this question before,
okay,
and that was about on the voting as far as a simple majority, for example, if there are 3 members on the board, like there is tonight,
tonight.
no, you still have to get 3 positive votes.
You do, okay, because we have discussed that in the past.
You have to have a majority of what a whole
Now,
commission.
you have to have 3 votes.
3 votes, yes.
If there's only 3, you have to have 3 yeses.
That's
If
correct.
there's 4, you have to have 3 as well.
That's correct. You have to have 3. If you look at number 7,
Okay,
and it says failure to secure the concurrent votes of 3 members, regardless.
Yep.
Shall constitute the result of recommendation for denial.
okay,
4 to 5 and 3.
Yep.
Yes, so.
regardless of how many here you have to have,
So that has to be 3.
okay,
So
Yeah, and if you vote to deny it, then, or if the motion doesn't carry, then it's like a denial. So you always have to have 3 to approve it no matter what.
correct.
Okay.
That's what it's up in the rules and procedures. So
okay.
thanks, Levi, for getting me.
All right, well, is that it? I make a motion to adjourn, yeah, you make a motion to adjourn?
Where'd the audience go? Come on, guys.
Take a
Let's
break.
start the meeting. Cracking beers or something.
We were definitely over the 5 minutes, but it kept getting louder and louder.
Yeah, I think the 3 majority is law, having 3 vote yeses, I think it's part of the law. So that